In this video, we are going to talk about how often you should study for math. This is a question many students have, especially if they are balancing school with work, family, transportation, other classes, or a busy schedule. And I want to start by saying something important. You do not need a perfect schedule to be successful in math, but you do need a routine. Math is a subject that builds over time. What you learn this week often connects to what you will do next week. Because of that, it is usually much easier to learn math in smaller pieces across several days than in one huge study session right before an exam. Let's think about it with an example. Imagine you are learning to play a musical instrument, learning a sport, or learning to drive. Practicing for 5 hours the night before a performance, game, or driving test would probably not work very well. You would learn more by practicing a little bit many times. Math works in a similar way. You are building skills. You are training your brain to recognize patterns, choose strategies, remember steps, and recover when you get stuck. That kind of learning needs repetition. So, how often should you study? A good goal for most math classes is to interact with the material several times each week. That does not mean every session has to be long. In fact, shorter, focused sessions are often better than one long, exhausting session. For many students, a helpful pattern is review after class or after watching a lesson. Then, work on homework while the topic is still fresh. Do a short check-in later in the week. And review older material before quizzes or exams. Let's make that more specific. After class or after an online lesson, spend 10 to 15 minutes reviewing what you just learned. This does not have to be complicated. You might look at your notes and ask, what is the main idea? What kind of problems did we work on? What steps do I need to remember? What confused me? You could also write one sentence in your own words about the topic. That small habit can help your brain organize the information. Then, try to begin the homework as soon as you can. This matters because homework is not just something to turn in. Homework is one of the main ways you learn math. If you wait too long, the examples may feel unfamiliar, and the homework can take much longer. But if you start while the lesson is still fresh, you are more likely to remember what the steps mean. Now, starting early does not mean finishing everything in one sitting. Actually, it can be very helpful to split homework into smaller parts. For example, do a few problems today. Check what felt confusing. Come back tomorrow and do more. Ask questions before the due date. This gives you time to get help if you need it. A strong math routine might include 3 or 4 study sessions each week. For example, session 1 could be reviewing the notes and starting the homework. Session 2, continue the homework and mark confusing problems. Session 3, ask questions, visit tutoring, or review mistakes. In session 4, practice a few problems without notes and prepare for the next lesson. These sessions do not all need to be long. Even 20 to 30 minutes can be useful if you are focused. Now, what if you're in an online class? For online math classes, it is especially important to create your own structure. Since you may not have regular class meeting times, you may need to choose specific times during the week when you will watch videos, take notes, complete homework, and check announcements. A helpful online math schedule might look like this. Early in the week, you could watch the lesson videos and take notes. In the middle of the week, you can work on homework and practice problems. Later in the week, you can review mistakes, ask questions, and finish assignments. And before the next week begins, look ahead and see what's coming. Again, this can be adjusted. The important thing is that math appears on your schedule more than once. Now, let's talk about exams. Before an exam, you usually want to increase your review time, but you do not want to save everything until the last minute. A good exam review might begin several days before the test. For example, 5 days before, you may want to list the topics and gather your materials. 4 days before, you can review the topics that feel somewhat familiar. 3 days before, you can practice harder or confusing problems. 2 days before, redo any missed problems and ask questions. 1 day before, do a short practice test and review the key ideas. And on the day of the exam, do a light review, not a panic cram session. Of course, your schedule may look different, but the main idea is this. Give yourself enough time to find out what you do not know yet. This is one of the biggest problems with cramming. If you wait until the night before, you may discover that you are confused, but there is not much time left to ask for help or practice. Studying earlier gives you options. Now, let's be realistic. Some weeks are busy. Some students have work shifts, children, family responsibilities, health concerns, transportation challenges, and multiple classes. So instead of aiming for a perfect study schedule, aim for a realistic one. Ask yourself, what days can I usually study math? What time of day is best for my brain? Can I do a short session before work, after dinner, between classes, or during a break? What is the minimum routine I can keep even during a hard week? That last question is important. Maybe your ideal routine is 4 study sessions a week, but during a busy week, your minimum routine might be to check Canvas, watch a single video, do 5 homework problems. Write down 1 question and ask for help before the due date. That still counts. That is still progress. Consistency does not mean doing everything perfectly. It means coming back to the material again and again. Here's a simple weekly math study routine you can try. First, preview. Look at what is due this week and what topics are coming up. Second, learn. Attend class or watch the lesson videos. Take notes. Pay attention to examples. Third, practice. Work on homework and problems without relying too much on notes. Fourth, check. Review your answers, mark confusing problems, and correct mistakes. Fifth, ask. Bring questions to your instructor, a tutor, a classmate, or an online support option. Sixth, review. Before the weekends, spend a few minutes looking back at what you learned. That is a complete routine. Preview, learn, practice, check, ask, review. Before we finish, here's your action step. Choose 2 to 4 times this week when you can work on math. Write them down like appointments. For each time, choose a specific task. For example, Monday, watch lesson video and take notes. Tuesday, start homework. Thursday, finish homework and mark questions. Friday, redo missed problems or visit tutoring. The more specific your plan is, the easier it is to follow. Math is easier to learn when you practice regularly instead of waiting until everything piles up. You do not need to study all day. You do not need to be perfect. You just need to return to the material often enough that your brain has time to practice, make mistakes, correct them, and build confidence. Start with a realistic plan. Protect a few study times each week. Ask for help early. And remember, small, steady steps can lead to real progress. You've got this.